Yeah, that's me.
I see.
So yes, tonight we're very happy and privileged and honored to have His Grace Bhrigupati Prabhu giving the talk tonight. And Bhrigupati Prabhu is a disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and a longtime resident of Los Angeles, or New Dwarka community specifically. And Bhrigupati Prabhu has been distributing books now has it been 50 years yet, Bhrigupati Prabhu?
Almost. I'm almost completed 48.
Okay. Almost completed 48 years of book distribution. So very dear service to Srila Prabhupada. So anyways, without further ado, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giri Bharadhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giri Bharadhari Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachori Yamuna Tira Vanachori Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Stotra Sri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Vivedikanda Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Stotra Sutta Sri Srimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Gaudi Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Premse Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Gopadan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mai Purdam Ki Jai. Ganga Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Brihat Madanga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Garanga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So tonight I'm going to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to read text 21. 7th canto, chapter 7, text 21. So I'll chant the Sanskrit, and then I'll read the word for word translation, the translation, the purport, and then say something about that. Okay? So, Swanam yata gravasu hemakara checheshu yogaistat abhinya apnuyat checheshu deheshu tatatma yogar adyatmavid brahma gatim labeta. Swarnam, gold, yataha, just as, ravasu, in the stones of gold ore, hema karaha, the expert who knows about gold, chetreshu, in gold mines, yogai, by various processes, tat abhigya, an expert who can understand where gold is, apnuyat, very easily obtains, chetreshu, within the material fields, Deheshu, the human bodies and all the rest of the 8,400,000 bodily forms. Tataha, similarly, Atmayogai, by spiritual processes. Adyatmavit, one who is expert in understanding the distinction between spirit and matter. Brahmagatim, perfection in spiritual life. Labeta, may obtain. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. An expert geologist can understand where there is gold and by various processes can extract it from the gold ore. Similarly, a spiritually advanced person can understand, this is Prahlad Maharaj speaking, by the way. Similarly, a spiritually advanced person can understand how the spiritual particle exists within the body, and thus by cultivating spiritual knowledge, he can attain perfection in spiritual life. However, as one who is not expert cannot understand where there is gold, a foolish person who has not cultivated spiritual knowledge cannot understand how the spirit exists within the body. So before I read the purport, I was listening to a class that Prabhupada was giving on this verse this morning in Gorakhpur, 1971. And he made the comment that, so just see, he said, we're thinking that it's just now that we have planes and science. And he said this was spoken millions and millions of years ago by Prahlad Maharaj, and he had knowledge of geology. That's what he's referring to here. Otherwise, Prabhupada said, how could he make this analogy? So even way back in those days, they knew the science of how to, where to find gold, and they knew about gold ore. So anyway, that was a comment Prabhupada made. I thought that was interesting. Purport. Here is a very good example concerning spiritual understanding. Foolish rascals, including so-called gyanis, philosophers, and scientists, cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body because they are lacking in spiritual knowledge. The Vedas enjoin, tad vigyanartam sagarum eva bigachet. To understand spiritual knowledge, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. Unless one has been trained in geology, here comes the analogy again. Unless one has been trained in geology, one cannot detect gold in stone. Similarly, unless one has been trained by a spiritual master, he cannot understand what is spirit and what is matter. Here it is said, Yogais tad abhigya. This indicates that one who has connected himself with spiritual knowledge can understand that there is a spiritual soul within the body. However, one who is in an animalistic conception of life and has no spiritual culture cannot understand. As an expert mineralogist or geologist can understand where there is gold and can then invest his money to dig there and chemically separate the gold from the ore, an expert spiritualist can understand where the soul is within matter. One who has not been trained cannot distinguish between gold and stone. Similarly, fools and rascals who have not learned from an expert spiritual master what is soul and what is matter cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body. To understand such knowledge, one must be trained in mystic yoga, in the mystic yoga system, or finally, in the Bhakti yoga system. As stated in the Bhagavad-Gita, Bhakti-mam abhijanati. Unless one takes shelter of the Bhakti yoga process, one cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body. Therefore, Bhagavad-Gita begins by teaching, Dehinosmin yata dehe komanam yovanam jara, tata dehantera praptir diras tachanamuyate. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2:13. Thus, the first instruction is that one should understand that the soul is within the body and is transmigrating from one body to another. This is the beginning of spiritual knowledge. Any person who is not expert in understanding this science or is unwilling to understand it remains in the bodily conception of life or the animalistic conception of life, as confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasyatma Buddhe Gunape Tridatutke Saeva Gokara. Every member of human society should clearly understand the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, for only in this way can one be spiritually elevated and automatically give up the false, illusory knowledge by which one thinks, I am this body, and everything belonging to this body is mine, aham mameti. This doggish conception should be rejected immediately. One should be prepared to understand the spirit soul and the supreme spirit, God, who are eternally related. Thus one may return home back to Godhead, having solved all the problems of life. Om Iganatamidam Dasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurut Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakaramayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Pitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lavita Shiva Shakan becomes Cha Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopikatanta Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so this is a great analogy. I love analogies because they really, help me understand things, and this is a really good one. So in order to really better appreciate this analogy, just to be on the safe side, I think we should define at least one word here, or, okay, because it says here, an expert geologist can understand where there is gold and by various processes can extract it from the gold ore. So ore, the dictionary definition of the word ore, O-R-E, is a naturally occurring solid material from which a metal or valuable mineral can be profitably extracted. I'll read it again. A naturally occurring solid material from which a metal or valuable mineral can be profitably extracted. So in this analogy, the thing that's analogous to the gold ore is us. The human body is like the gold ore. We're ore. In other words, within us is something valuable that can be extracted can be profitably extracted, by a process. Okay, so that's the analogy there between the gold ore is us. We are the human body with the spirit soul in it. The expert geologist, back in the beginning here, which is an expert geologist, can understand where there is gold and by various processes that's the spiritual master, right? The spiritual master is the expert geologist, and the various processes that can extract the gold from the gold ore is the processes of yoga, bhakti yoga. So one of those processes is smelting. You probably heard that word, smelting. And the dictionary definition of smelting is the extraction of metal from its ore by a process involving heating and melting. That's smelting, heating and melting. And I thought that was very interesting because in general, the process of bhakti yoga involves tapasya. And the word tapasya, tapa means heat. It actually means heat. And of course, tapasya means voluntarily accepting inconveniences to the mind and the body for the purpose of making advancement in spiritual life. One of the, traditional classic forms of tapasya is fasting. And generally, we find when we fast, it kind of heats up the body. Anyway, but tapa means heat. So I thought that was interesting that smelting is one of the, a very primary process for the extraction of metal from its ore. So in the same way, tapasya, which also is kind of like the word means heat, and that's also that's a key process for extracting the spiritual realization from the material human body. So a big part of that tapasya is the chanting. Chanting is a very important part of bhakti yoga, very important item in bhakti yoga, and it's a very important part of the tapasya. As Prabhupada said many, many times, many different lectures, many different places, devotional service begins with the tongue, and the tongue has two functions. One is tasting, and the other is vibrating. So tasting, of course, just means only take prasadam, right? And the vibrating is chanting Hare Krishna, chanting Vedic mantras. Basically, it's just not trying to avoid vibrating any non-Krishna sounds. Okay, but specifically, chanting Hare Krishna is a very important part of that. I mean, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a verse that goes, Smartavyam satatam vishnur na smartavya najatu sit sarve vidi nasera sur etairode vakinkara. It's always remember Vishnu, never forget him. All the other rules and regulations of servants are meant to be servants and assistants to this basic principle. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that one may have other duties to perform, but one must first abide by the spiritual master's order to chant at least 16 rounds. So in other words, basically in that purport, he emphasizes the importance of chanting 16 rounds as something that's super important if you know, in order for one to remember Krishna and not forget him. So in terms of, as far as chanting goes, if you're already getting a taste for chanting, then congratulations. This, what I'm about to say in the next couple of minutes, is you don't have to worry about it because you've superseded it. But if you're not, then this is a very important instruction, okay? For those of us who are chanting, but maybe not getting so much of a taste. The chanting, we should do our chanting like an athlete does a workout. When an athlete goes to do a workout, just that phrase itself, workout, you know, it's almost onomatopoetic. It gives you a pretty good idea what's going on. You really have to make an effort, right? You know, if an athlete goes to his workout and doesn't really make an effort, well, he doesn't progress. So in the same way, when we, are ready to do our chanting, we have to mentally prepare ourselves. We have to tell ourselves, okay, I mean, if you're getting a taste, as I said, this is irrelevant because you're looking forward to it. It's not going to be difficult at all. But if you're not, then you just have to, be realistic and and remind yourself, okay, this is going to be a workout. You got to roll up your, sleeves, so to speak, and be prepared to do a workout. And that will be different for different devotees. The bottom line is that, you have to try to chant attentively. Every morning, at least here in New Dwarka, we chant a verse, Bahu Janma Kariyadi Shravana Kirtanam Tidbhutanapai Krishna Pari Prembadanda. If one is infested with the 10 offenses while chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he will not get the love of Godhead, which is the ultimate goal of his chanting. And then we recite the 10 offenses together. And then after reciting all 10 offenses, we say, it is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Okay? Well, that's kind of underemphasizing it, I think, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I'm not sure what book it is, but he said that inattentive chanting is the mother of all offenses. So what does a mother do? Mother gives birth to children, right? You see? So in other words, if you're chanting inattentively, that's going to give birth to all those other offenses. But what happens if you get rid of the mother? No children, right? See, so if we chant attentively, then logically, the other offenses won't be there. The inattentive chanting is the mother of all the other offenses. And once again, if you get rid of the mother, then there's no children, no other offenses. So that's a very big, important thing. And in order to not chant, in order to chant attentively, not chant inattentively, different people are going to have to do different things. The one thing you definitely don't want to do is nod off during the japa. If you can sit and chant, great. Once again, congratulations. But be honest. If you can't, then do what you got to do. Get up, stand up, walk around, go outside, do whatever you got to do. But don't nod off. That's like practically a slap in the face to Krishna. It's an insult to the holy name if you're nodding off, while you're chanting. That's definitely totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. I mean, it's about as far from attentive chanting as you can get. So get up. I mean, I've done different things over the years at different, points in time, but something that used to work for me a lot, because I was one of those people. I would tend to nod off. So I'd stand up. I'd walk around. Go outside, get fresh air. That helped a lot. Something that I'm doing now that's really working well, really well, is that after the I chant after the we say the 10 offenses. That's kind of like the end of our first part of the morning program. That's comes after Mangal Artik and Tulsi Puja, and then I have a spot where I go, and I'm on the roof of a parking lot where it's very spacious, it's very clean, it's very airy. I can chant as loud as I want because I get kicked out of the temple room a lot because I tend to chant loud. So devotees are always coming and giving me, nice but dirty looks or saying something to me. So I don't want to have to deal with that. I like to be able to chant how it comes out. So therefore, I've got to go someplace where I'm not going to bother anybody. So I go to the top of the roof of this parking lot, and I can face the direction that the sun's rising. I take a mat with me and I put it on top of like a pillar that's there, and I just plunk myself down there and I start chanting. And what I find is, and also something I've been doing that really helps is I have those yoga bricks. Well, I have something that's like kind of equivalent to that. I find that if you kind of stick something so that underneath you a little bit and elevate your backside, so to speak, it kind of helps me sit up straighter. And Prabhupada did say that sitting up straight helps concentration. So the combination of that, I got my spot, I got a better sitting posture, and then I just sit there and start chanting. To start off with, I'll just chant at whatever speed feels natural, at whatever volume feels natural. But what I find is invariably, as the morning goes on, as this first light in the sky, and then it starts getting lighter and lighter, automatically I experience more energy. Without even trying, I find my chanting gets faster and louder, and I feel like I'm paying more attention. So no, it's that the atmosphere, the environment is conducive. It's supporting me. It's supporting my activity. Without me trying to do anything. I just have to put myself there, and automatically I get energy from doing that. I get energy. I've done this. I've experimented with it, and as I do it regularly, and I find the same thing happens basically every day. Every day as the morning wears on, as the light comes up in the sky and it gets lighter and lighter, I find more energy and more enthusiasm, and so it's helpful.
You're talking about how you've been doing that every day and it's giving you a lot of energy and your experiment.
Right. So it's a material thing, but it's like, I think it's in the mode of goodness. So, mode of goodness is a springboard to the transcendence. And so it's favorable. Rupa Goswami said you could accept what's favorable and reject what's unfavorable. Of course, ultimately, there's no hard and fast rule. Like Lord Chaitanya says, Nam Namakadi Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatarpita Niyamata Smarane Nikala. No hard and fast rule. But if something works, if it helps, why not? And that is working for me, and that is helping. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. But the general principle is whatever it takes. There's an expression, I don't know if it comes from Shakespeare or where it's from, but it says, all's fair in love and war. Okay? And Krishna consciousness is both. It's war. Prabhupada said very many times, Krishna consciousness is like engaging in war against the illusory energy. So it's war in that sense, and it's love. We're trying to develop our love for Krishna. So Krishna consciousness is both love and war, the attempt to become Krishna conscious. So all's fair. And Rupa Goswami, he basically made that point too. There's a verse where it goes, Yena tena prakarena mana Krishna navesayat, sarve vidi nasera sur eteor evakinkara. That whatever it goes, Yena tena prakarena. Just do whatever you got to do. But, fix your mind on Krishna. Yeah, do it. Yena tena, any way, any way, anyhow. Fix your mind on Krishna, and then the ability to follow the rules and regulations will develop. You see? So that was Rupa Goswami's instruction. I wrote down a bunch of other things here. These are kind of like a little bit random, but there are other just kind of tips, about things that when I was thinking about what to say, that occurred to me as things that could be helpful to advancing in spiritual life. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, one thing was, I would say if you possibly can, it does help in Krishna consciousness if you can, stay brahmachari, if you can stay single, because when you get involved with household affairs, it definitely is a distraction and it can muddy the waters. You know that expression, muddy the waters? It's not like it's the end of the world, but it does make it harder, I'd say. That was one point. Another point is don't waste time. We tend to think that we have all the time in the world. We don't. I sort of keep a list of devotees I know that have left their body, and a lot of them are old timers, but sometimes it's younger devotees too. So we never know when our time is up, and it's harder to make advancement than what you think. In other words, we really want to be careful as not to have the mentality of, I got all the time in the world and making advancement is easy. Nope, it's just the opposite. We don't know how much time we have, and making advancement is difficult. It's difficult. So you got to try to really try hard, not thinking that I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next week, I'll do it next month, next year. No, now, because we don't know, and it's how much time we have, and we don't know. And it's, as I said, to make advancement is not easy. It's I've been in the movement 48 years. I don't think I'm advanced. I feel like I'm in Anartha Nivritti, just someplace in Anartha Nivritti after 48 years. That's me. I'm maybe, not the greatest success story, but I don't think I've been like, I would just say it. I don't consider myself like a full-on nonsense. I mean, I've tried. Krishna consciousness is hard. I mean, I feel like I've tried harder to be advancing devotional service. I've made more of an effort to be successful in devotional service than I made to be successful at anything else in my entire life, really, to be honest with you. And I haven't been very successful to date. So it's hard. So you got to take it seriously. If you want to make advancement, you got to really try. And you got to really try for a while. And even then, you might not be that successful. So get into it right away. Here's an important subject: associating with devotees. One thing I've observed about that is one way to take advantage of the associating devotees. Sometimes we tend to have like some sort of sentimental idea in our mind about associating with devotees means sitting around and talking, or it does, but it means, Prabhupada gave us actually how to associate with the devotees. When you go to kirtan, when there's other devotees in the kirtan, that's associating with devotees. Actually, it's definitely one of the most important types of way to associate with devotees, and it might be the most important way to associate with devotees. Let's just stick with, it's one of the most important ways to associate with devotees, kirtan. My personal experience with that is this, I've experienced this repeatedly. I couldn't tell you how many times, but I'll be chanting on my own, chanting Japa, something like that. And it's, it's okay. I'm getting into it a bit. And then something will happen like, it's time for Mangalarti. I remember this happening to me in Mayapur last time I was there. I was already up for like an hour or two, pretty much every morning. And I had most mornings I had all my rounds done even before Mangalarti. And that was good. I felt kind of proud of myself, but it wasn't anything special in the sense, no particular taste or anything like that. But then when the Mangalarti started and the doors would open, I would used to stand in front of the Panchatattva, that altar, that part of the temple. And, all the devotees were there by then, and then somebody would start leading the kirtan, and wham, it was like just a wall of low-grade ecstasy. it wasn't like hairs were standing on end and tears were flowing from my eyes. But I definitely was experiencing a taste and definitely, experiencing some transcendental energy there. And I came to the conclusion, well, it's not me. I mean, I'm the same person as I was 5 minutes ago. So what's going on here? And I came to the conclusion, my analysis was, I came to the conclusion that I'm getting the benefit of the service and the association of everybody else. And here I am with with 1,000 devotees. We're all there for the same purpose, to glorify the Panchatattva. We're all chanting together. Meantime, there's the deities are up there, and there's pujaris. You guys just went dark, but anyway, now you're back in. The pujaris have put in a lot of service to dress the deities and serve the deities, etc. He said all the devotees are there chanting. So in other words, my conclusion was, I'm getting the combined effect I'm getting the mercy of all the devotees and the deities, and that's why it's nothing I'm doing. See, so it's like I felt I'd be foolish not to take advantage of that. And be honest with you, the same thing happens to me to a lesser degree, even here in New Dwarka. A lot of mornings, before Mangal Arti, I'm just chanting, and it's just like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, nothing special. And then the Mangal Arti starts, and then boom, the taste is there. And it's there all through the Mangal Arti and the Tulsi Puja, and like that, till the end of the 10 offenses. So there's something special about chanting with the devotees. Basically, I think what it boils down to is Krishna likes it. Krishna likes to see, the deities like to see their devotees chanting together. That's pleasing to him. And because that's pleasing, they're pleased, they reciprocate, they reward you with that, some transcendental bliss. So that's a very important thing. That's a very important way to associate with devotees. Participate in the kirtan. That's right. That's Prabhupada said that. That's like basic Krishna consciousness. Participate in the kirtan. Why? Krishna's pleased by that. This is Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, and he reciprocates. And that reciprocation comes in the form of, transcendental bliss. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Jnaniyati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chiyadahoitka. Causes knowledge, transcendental bliss causes knowledge and detachment. Just it's very, simple. So that's one way. Another important way to associate with the devotees is to attend the classes of advanced devotees. When you have somebody like Dravida giving class, or you have somebody like Bhajanarayan Maharaj giving class, or Vijay giving class, don't miss it. You'd be foolish, because when the person is giving class, they're trying to, that's like you're getting the best of them. They're coming to that class, they've prepared for it, they thought about what they're going to say. They're trying to they're trying to say something that's going to try to enthuse you, inspire you, help you in your Krishna consciousness. They got a message, and the message is something to try to help you advance in spiritual life. And these are devotees that are been around for a long time. They've been successful in their own spiritual life, and here they are trying to say something to help you in your spiritual life. So why would you miss that? That's totally not understanding how the whole thing works. So definitely, whenever these people are gonna give a class, be there, even if it's just it might be a Bhagavad-Gita class or whatever it is. And even above and beyond that, one should look for opportunities to serve these senior advanced devotees, because a lot of times what happens is like senior advanced devotees, they keep a low profile, and they don't like to walk around with their chest sticking out and advertising, I'm an advanced devotee. No, they'll just be very inconspicuous, low profile, and they cover themselves in service and humility like that. So you can be fooled, but don't be fooled. You got to use your intelligence. You got to tell yourself, no, I know this. This is an advanced devotee. This is our GBC. This is our temple president. This is somebody who's memorized half the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and you have to look for opportunities to serve those devotees. And when you serve them, they become they become pleased by that. They feel like affection for you, and then that's when and the way they reciprocate is they will share Krishna Katha with you, and they'll do it in such a way that they'll be desiring to your well-being, your advancement of Krishna consciousness, and it's very inspiring. It's a very important thing. Another good thing about if you want to nobody should feel isolated in Krishna consciousness or lonely. A good way to really make friends is to do service with somebody. That's it. If you have somebody, like if you go out on Sankirtan with somebody, this has been my experience, that devotees who I've traveled with, going on traveling Sankirtan with, or even just going on Sankirtan with from the temple like that, when you do a service together, you tend to really make good friendships with those devotees you do that with. And they're not superficial. See, friendships, relationships that are developed as a result of doing service together, they're not superficial. There's a transcendental aspect to them. And it helps you feel really close to that devotee and develop a meaningful relationship with that devotee. So that's another important thing. And another important thing is don't become too critical of devotees you see are struggling and maybe not able to are not quite to the standard. It's not our position to criticize. Rather, we should try to do something, reach out, try to help that person. Quite often that could be a test from Krishna, But, well, here's the point. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, everybody knows the stories about Krishna Das. He was Krishna Das was from a Brahmin family. He was a solid Brahmin. He was a solid person. He was Lord Chaitanya's servant. And what happened was when they were traveling, they came upon this tribe. I think it's the Bhattataris, I think is how you say it. And they just, they weren't Vaishnavas. They were just some mode of ignorance kind of group. And so they plotted. They made they sent a woman to seduce Krishna Das, and they lured Krishna Das into their association like that, and then they were just going to keep him or use him as like a slave or a servant or something like that. They captured him basically, and Lord Chaitanya had to go rescue him. And then when Lord Chaitanya didn't say anything about it, but when he got back to, I think, Jagannath Puri, he released him from the service. So, it was kind of disgraceful. And Krishnadas felt very bad about that. The devotees took compassion upon Krishnadas, and they arranged a service for him, that he could take news of Lord Chaitanya to Mother Sachi back in Navadvip. But the thing was that even though that happened to him, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he mentions him in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, not in a bad way. And there's a chapter, Adi Lila chapter 10 talks about the devotees in the Chaitanya tree. And he's mentioned there as one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree. And not in a very, demeaning way. In other words, okay, that happened to him. He fell down, but still he's mentioned as a branch of the Chaitanya tree. Same thing with Chota Haridas. Chota Haridas, was Lord Chaitanya rejected him because he thought he looked lustfully at a woman, and he was a brahmachari. So Lord Chaitanya was very strict about that kind of thing. If he didn't like hypocrisy. If somebody was in the renounced order of life, brahmachari sannyas, he was expected to follow very strictly. And if he didn't, Lord Chaitanya was very displeased. The examples are Krishna Das and this Chota Haridas. Lord Chaitanya rejected him, and then the devotees, in this particular case, the devotees begged Lord Chaitanya to please forgive him, and Lord Chaitanya was like hard. He said, "You know what? I'm not going to forgive him, and if you mention his name again, I'm going to leave. So just make a choice. Do you want his association or my association?" So they became afraid, and they never brought him up again. And Chota Haridas became disheartened, and he went to the Triveni and he drowned himself. He committed suicide. But anyway, he didn't. Devotees thought he was. They heard him singing, and they some of them thought they'd come back as a ghost. But I think it was, who was it? Srup Damodar. I can't remember. It was somebody. I think it was Srup Damodar said, "No way, Chota Haridas didn't come back as a ghost. He's an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya. He's a confidential associate of Lord Chaitanya." Anyway, I think they said he went back to Godhead. I can't remember the detail there, but he was also mentioned as a branch in the Chaitanya tree. So the point is, don't be, if you see a devotee struggling, not up to the standard, be careful. They are a devotee. They are a devotee. It's a big difference between a struggling devotee and a karmi, and somebody who's not a devotee. They're dear to Lord Chaitanya. They're dear to Prabhupada. So if you want to do anything, say anything, do something encouraging. Don't try to, don't try to put them down in any way. It won't be appreciated by the spiritual master or by Lord Chaitanya. Okay. Another point here, as I said, these are just a bunch of different things that came to my mind as things that could be helpful to somebody. Controlling the senses. One thing I've observed over the years is that whenever I control my senses in terms of not overeating, not oversleeping, not contemplating the objects of the senses, the result is that I always feel more confident, enthusiastic about whatever I have to do in Krishna consciousness. Never fails, It's like science. You control your senses, and it helps you be more on the spiritual platform. I just feel that reciprocation. I always feel more confident and more enthusiastic. So that's an important thing. Here's something that's kind of not very transcendental, but it definitely helps. Sometimes when I come back from Sankirtan, especially as you get older, you might be kind of wiped out, tired. For me, even if I work on just even driving in a car for like a half hour, 45 minutes, by the time I got out of the car, even I was feeling great before I got in the car. I'm feeling like a bit like out of it. Good thing to do, take a cold shower. Take a cold shower. Believe it or not, if you take a cold shower, what I do is I take a quick rinse with cold water, then I soap up and I rinse off again with cold water and dry off and put on clean clothes. And wow, it's amazing. It's like instant mode of goodness. As I said, it's material, but it works. And I've had so many experienced so many times now feeling like death warmed over. And all I did was rather than just kind of accept it, oh well, this is how this is where I'm at now. No, I just go take that cold shower. The mind's gonna buck, but you just don't listen to it. Just take the cold shower, soap up, rinse off with cold water, dry off, put on some clean clothes, and you'll feel like a new person again. It's like you got a new lease on life. It's very effective. It works. So you can remember and you could try. Another important thing that I've just got realization about this recently is the importance of keeping our stuff clean. Just recently, I was put in charge of one of the temple cars, and initially I was driving this car, and it was an old car. It's a 22-year-old car, and I wasn't taking, I was just using it and wasn't being particularly careful about what it looked like. I mean, outside or inside, or even the way I was driving it, I wasn't being very careful. And then I don't know exactly what happened, but it's just at some point I just decided, no, you know what? I got to take care of this thing a bit better. So I started cleaning it, and I cleaned the outside, and I said, whoa, this kind of looks pretty good. And then I cleaned the inside, got some new hubcaps, and as I started taking care of it, and I got it looking really good. And I noticed it's giving me energy. I feel it's giving me energy, keeping that car neat and clean. And Prabhupada was, like that. Prabhupada said he didn't like old vehicles. Prabhupada liked to see things like clean and etc., organized. That's part of Krishna consciousness. I remember when I first joined, every morning as part of the morning program, before prasadam, they used to have like a 15-minute cleanup. Everybody had to clean for 15 minutes, and then once a week it was for like an hour. That was part of the program before prasadam. So, of course, that, doesn't, I don't think any temple does that any place in the world now, and probably everybody's forgotten about it, but that was part of the program back in the early days. Even at the press, I used to work at the press. When we first got to the press, before we started our service, everybody had to clean their work area like that, dust it and wipe it down, and with eucalyptus oil and water, and that was standard everyday procedure. So that also is very, it's important. It gives you enthusiasm and energy. Another thing that that's important, this is along the lines of taking the cold showers, is that sometimes, especially these days, people in general tend to spend a lot of time indoors behind electronic devices such as computers or phones or iPads or whatever, okay? But it's really good sometimes, almost on a regular basis, if you just get outdoors and walk up a hill. Prabhupada used to walk. Prabhupada himself walked every day. Maybe for some of you who don't know the story, Prabhupada when he was in New York, 1967, he had a stroke or heart attack. I'm not sure which, or maybe it was a combination of both. Anyway, they called this doctor, and so he went with Prabhupada, and the devotees were outside. And so after the doctor left, devotees came in and they asked Prabhupada, what did he say? And he said, Prabhupada said, well, he said I should go for a walk. And the devotees started apologizing to Prabhupada. And they said the old man stays inside too much. He needs to go for a walk. Something like that. I think they said it to, they said it to the doctor said it to the devotees. The old man's inside too much. He needs to go out for a walk. And so then the devotees went into the room, and the devotees, and Prabhupada asked the devotees, what did he say? And then the devotees started apologizing. Says, Prabhupada, he's not a very good, this was, what was it, Memorial Day weekend. So, everybody was out of town. This is the only doctor they could get. So they started telling Prabhupada, he's not a very good doctor. And so Prabhupada said, no, what did he say? And then they repeated it. They told Prabhupada what he said, and said, Prabhupada said, oh yeah, no, he has spoken rightly. And that was the beginning of Prabhupada's morning walk. And from that time onwards, pretty much for the next 10 years, for as long as Prabhupada was physically able, every morning, like clockwork, he would go out and he walked for like a half hour in one direction, stopped, turned around, and that was it. And he came back. And the devotee said he walked fast. And that was for that purpose. It was exercise. Prabhupada was taking exercise. So, it's important. Sometimes, I mean, who could be more of a Paramahamsa than Srila Prabhupada? But even that great Paramahamsa, Srila Prabhupada, he took exercise. He did his morning walk. And he wasn't just, and you could, there's still good few devotees around that were on walks with him, and he didn't just stroll. He wasn't just like strolling. He was walking. They had a tough time keeping up with him. So, it's a kind of a mundane thing, but once again, you got to be practical in Krishna consciousness. You got to do things to keep your enthusiasm. There's one verse in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, I'll read it. I'll grab it. I think I got it right here, where Prabhupada makes this point. This is a famous purport, actually. This was written, Prabhupada would inspire this. There was one of Prabhupada's most dear disciples, somebody that Prabhupada had a lot of affection for. And he was a sannyasi, and he's had difficulty, and he fell down. And so Prabhupada wrote this purport when he became aware of that, and to acknowledge and to encourage him. And it's a really great purport. I'll read it. Prabhupada said, in the fighting between the elephant and the crocodile, this is, talking about Gajendra, that pastime. The difference was that although the elephant was extremely powerful, he was in a foreign place in the water. During 1,000 years of fighting, he could not get any food. And under the circumstances, his bodily strength diminished. And because his bodily strength diminished, his mind also became weak and his senses less powerful. The crocodile, however, being an animal of the water, had no difficulties. He was getting food and was therefore getting mental strength and sensual encouragement. Thus, while the elephant became reduced in strength, the crocodile became more and more powerful. Now, from this we may take the lesson that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. Our Krishna consciousness movement has actually declared war against the illusory energy in which all living entities are rotting in a false understanding of civilization. The soldiers in this Krishna consciousness movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. To keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. What constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone, and therefore there are divisions of Varnashram: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, it is advised that no one takes sannyas. It's one purport Prabhupada says these purports, they're the pride of the disciple. I feel like that. When I read Prabhupada's purports, I feel, wow, I'm proud. I feel like Prabhupada really was a great preacher. I mean, definitely, Krishna helped him write these purports. And Prabhupada said as much. He said that these purports, when I sit down to write these books, Krishna's right there and he's dictating to me what to say. Anyway, reading on. So Prabhupada quotes the Sanskrit for that there, how in Kali you're not supposed to take sannyas. He says, from this we can understand that in this age, the sannyas ashram is forbidden because people are not strong. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us an example in taking sannyas at the age of 24 years, but even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be extremely careful because he had taken sannyas at an early age. For preaching, we give young boys sannyas, but actually it is being experienced that they are not fit for sannyas. Therefore, they're not fit for sannyas, period. There is no harm, however, if one thinks that he is unfit for sannyas. If he is very much agitated sexually, he should go to the ashram where sex is allowed, namely the Grihastha ashram. See, this is important. This is a very important instruction Prabhupada's giving here. And it's too bad some devotees, if they would have been around, had the opportunity to read this, that it would have been really much better for them. Prabhupada's saying here is if you can't do it, he's not saying commit suicide. He's saying go to the ashram where sex is allowed, the Grihastha ashram. So that one has been found. He's making a concession. You see, normally the regulative principle is if a sannyasi falls down, he's supposed to go to the Triveni and, commit suicide. But Prabhupada is not saying here, for the devotees he's giving sannyas to do that. He's telling them, okay, give it up and take Grihastha ashram. He says that if that one has been found to be very weak in one place does not mean that he should stop fighting the crocodile of Maya. One should take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, and at the same time, one can be a grihastha if he is satisfied with sex indulgence. There's no need to give up the fight. That's the point. There's no need to give up the fight. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore recommended stanesh tita shrutigatam tan van manobi. One may stay in whichever ashram is suitable for him. It is not essential that one take sannyas. If one is sexually agitated, he can enter the grihastha ashram, even if he's already taken sannyas, Prabhupada had previously said here, but one must continue fighting. See, that's the overarching underlying principle. One must continue fighting. For one who is not in the transcendental position, to take sannyas artificially is not a very great credit. If sannyas is not suitable, one may enter the grihastha ashram and fight Maya with great strength. And here he repeats it. This is the third time he repeats it. But one should not give up the fighting and go away. See? So the bottom line, the most thing is just Somehow or another, as we heard earlier, yena tena prakarena mana Krishna navasaya, that somehow or another, one has to try to become Krishna conscious. It doesn't matter in what ashram you try to do it in. It doesn't matter in what activity you try to do it by. There's a very nice verse in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita where Krishna says, by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, man can, in the performance of his own work, attain perfection. See? So in other words, whatever you could do, whatever's your natural inclination, you do that for Krishna, and you do it in whatever ashram you feel comfortable in. The idea is just somehow or another, be engaged in Krishna's service and don't give it up. And then if we do that, ultimately we'll be successful. So I'll stop there, 7:30. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Bhrigupati Prabhu. My name is Bhakti Glenn, and I'm one of the book distributors here in SanDiego. Can you give us a few advice on how to be determined in book distribution, please? Thank you.
Sure. Well, one thing is, try to have all your 16 rounds chanted before you go out. Because then, if you do that, I always felt very confident when I've got all my rounds chanted. I feel like, okay, I got that, it's like my protection, I got that under my belt. And I feel like, okay, Krishna's with me. I've done what I'm supposed to do. I got up, I went to the morning program, I've chanted 16 rounds. I got my, taking some prasadam. That, when you have a good sadhana, then you feel confident and you feel hopeful that you're going to get Krishna's mercy. In 1975 in Atlanta, Prabhupada met with the book distributors. Mostly he met with the book distributors who were distributing books at the airports. Tripurari was their spokesman. So Tripurari said to Prabhupada, sometimes, when we go to the different temples, they ask us to give class in book distribution technique. And Prabhupada said, so what do you tell them? And Tripurari said, well, he said, we tell them that first they have to read the books and follow the regulative principles. And Prabhupada interrupted him and said, yes, that is our only technique, to become very devout followers of the rules and regulations. In other words, purity is the force. If you have a good sadhana, you're going to be empowered. Not to say you're not going to be tested. Yeah, you're going to get tested. But in general, the general overall principle is, if you have good sadhana, if you get up and you go to Mangalarti and you go to the whole program and you chant your rounds and you're reading the books and you're only eating prasadam and like that, then it's just a matter of time. And you go out and try. When you're out there, you really make an effort to don't start at a certain time, work hard until a certain time. Just keep doing that. You're going to get empowered. Krishna's, it's not a mundane activity. It's not under the laws of material energy. How's that verse go? Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritim ashrita. The Mahatmas, they're under the protection of the internal potency. You have the perfect example of that there in SanDiego, Vijay. Vijay, if he goes out, he's going to distribute 20 Bhagavad-Gitas. Once Vijay, this happened more than once. Once Vijay went to Cal State San Bernardino here in the Los Angeles area, and he went to this, to do his book distribution there. So he got there. When he got there, he found out the school wasn't open yet. It was before the semester, but went all the way out there. So he decided to set up his table anyway. He set up his table outside the student union building, and lo and behold, he distributed his 20 Bhagavad-Gitas. And he went back there the next day, he did it again, the next day he did it again. As Krishna sends the people. It's not a mundane thing. If you're surrendering to Krishna, Krishna is in their heart. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshe arjuna tishtati. Brahmayan sarvabhutani mayaya. How's it go? Brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarurani maya. Yeah. So Krishna's the living entity situated as if on a machine made of material. He's being directed, by the super soul. So when Krishna sees, my devotee's out there, he's out there, and he's chanted 16 rounds, he's following the four great principles, and he's enthusiastic to try to distribute my books. then Krishna, Sarvasya Chaham Radisane Vishto Mataks Maturgyanam Aponamcha. Krishna's in everyone's heart, and he's giving knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So he inspires people to come and to where you are, to meet you, and to get the book. Krishna reciprocates. So that's I think that's the most important thing, to just have good sadhana, read the books. Don't space out when you're driving or something like that. Something I love to do, and I do it, is I listen to Prabhupada lectures. It's something I started doing right at the beginning of the pandemic. I've done it before even, but this is probably the third time I'm doing it. I started right at the beginning. I use this website called prabhupadvani.org because it's very user-friendly. And what I did was I started with February, I think it's February, something, middle of February 1966. The first recording they have of Prabhupada is, the first audio is Prabhupada recording the introduction to the Bhagavad-Gita. And then I listen to one after the other. I'm up to I'm in February 18th, 1971. Prabhupada's in Gorakhpur, which is, the lectures he gives in Gorakhpur are amazing. And I'm really enjoying it because, you're listening to Prabhupada, and when you do it chronologically like that, it's kind of like you're simultaneously meditating on the way the movement developed. It's a good idea to read the Lila Amrita as well. And you really get a feel. You get it. It's like a pastime. It's not like, it is a pastime. Prabhupada's preaching, the way he came to America, the way he, preached and made devotees and went from one place. It's pastime. So you're meditating on the teachings, and you're meditating on the pastime of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada's just like when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you're reading about, how Lord Chaitanya was here and he took sannyas and then he went there, and it's Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. This is Prabhupada's preaching from 65 to 77. It was his pastime. It's a transcendental pastime. So you're hearing the instructions and you're meditating on the transcendental pastime of Srila Prabhupada's preaching. Very, very, very nectarine. So I'd recommend that. And that's a good thing to do also when, you're feeling like you're just a little tired or something. You don't want to, maybe you can't read, or you got to be driving at the same time, but you could always be listening to something, Don't listen to your mind. Better somehow or another listen to the transcendental sound vibration from the Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koryak. Our only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. See? So that's a trick. Just always try to allow yourself to be hearing that transcendental sound vibration.
Thank you very much.
Where do you go? Where do you go for book distribution?
I go to several places here. Recently, I've been going to La Jolla Cove.
I'll tell you a good spot. Oceanside. I used to go to Oceanside. I used to work it on the weekends when the Marines get, they're on leave, and they're very receptive. I used to do really well down there. I used to stand on Tremont and, where that movie theater is? Have you been to Oceanside?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's a good spot. You can ask Balaram about it. It's a really good spot. I mean, it's a half-hour drive from where you guys are. It's north of the SanDiego Temple. You go there on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, and you could stand on that main street outside the movie theater, or just kind of walk around a bit, and mostly try to do the military guys. Some of them are really nice guys. Well, they're all nice. I mean, but some of them are really receptive. I mean, you wouldn't think, because they're in the military, but they are. Some of them are very innocent and very simple, and they take the books and, they're interested, and they give nice donations. It's a good spot. During the week, it's different because, those guys are on the base, but they're off on Saturday and Sunday, and they come down there to catch a movie or do their, get their uniforms dry cleaned or get a haircut or something like that, or just walk around and have something to do. So, you're all over the place.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anything they'd like to
Hare Krishna Prabhu, very nice class. Jai Srila Prabhupada, excellent. All the points that, practical points that Prabhu you said, very helpful in the devotional service. I have one small question.
Sure.
It's so when we are in Gruhastha, chanting in the morning, it's not possible to finish all rounds. So I do like some morning, some afternoon, some in the evening. So I know it's not the best thing, but do you have any thing to say about that? Or if you can suggest, probably.
Yeah, just whenever you do get the time to chant, just kind of, how would you say it? Really focus. In other words, okay, you can't chant them all at once in the morning. What can you do? But when you are chanting, don't be doing like, try to do it such a way that you're not chanting and doing something else at the same time, or, you know what I mean? Like when you finally do get that opportunity to chant, then just forget about everything else and just chant. You know, even if you have to like walk around the block, you know, get out of the house, or just at least, you know, if it's not in the morning, if it's not all at once, at least whenever you do it, try to do it in a quality way. You know that expression, spend quality time? So you got to spend some quality time with your rounds. Ideally, it's best early in the morning, all at once. But if that's not possible, then whenever you do it, just give your rounds quality time. Whenever you are able to, or whatever time of the day you're able to do that.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Very nice. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Anything? We've got two chats here. Let's look at that.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
My name is Tapas. I was thinking, you said that we should really focus and chant attentively. So what we can do to be more focused during chanting? I mean, how can we improve our rounds? Should we read the books before we chanting?
Yeah, but not like, if you read regularly, you're more likely to have Krishna conscious thoughts pop in your mind even when you're chanting than if you're not reading at all. But that's super important. Aside from that, though, just those things I said, you know, just be awake, have energy, just do the things you need to do to really do it in a serious way. It's a serious activity. You know, just take it, you got to take it, do it as a serious activity, not as just something that you're doing kind of while you're looking at your cell phone or, you know, something like that. It's a top priority.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your answer. I think that answers my question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Wonderful pointers on improving the sadhana. I have a question, like when we are trying, like I live outside and I work outside, and I mean I take the association of devotees. I live close to the temple, but it's been like I'm trying to like leave, reduce, like cut down on sense like gratification, like other things like YouTube and other things. And if I'm successful for like a few weeks or something, then usually like I'm feeling very high or something, and it becomes more like my mind gets very agitated, and I again like indulge in sense enjoyment, as you can say. So do you have like any experience or any pointers on that, Prabhu?
Yeah, I would try what I was suggesting. You try that thing. Just go on to find that website, prabhupadvani.org.
Mm-hmm.
Try what I was. It's a very specific suggestion. Try what I was doing. Just listen to the Prabhupada audio right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's a project. It'll take you about a year, and just listen to it, everything right from the beginning, right till the very last thing. And as I said, because that way you're hearing Prabhupada, you're hearing what a pure devotee has to say. Who could be more important to listen to than Prabhupada? There's so many people, millions, hundreds of millions of people, billions of people are talking in this world, but who could have something more important to say than Srila Prabhupada? Because if we want to listen to somebody, Prabhupada's the best person you could possibly listen to. And there it is. His lectures are there. I mean, they're there. They're just there for somebody to just turn on and listen to. So it's the best utilization of your time. And as I said, in addition to getting all sorts of valuable instructions, you'll find that you're meditating. Oh, where's Prabhupada now? What year is this? Where is he now? What's happening? What was happening in the world then? What was happening in the movement? And you're meditating on the pastimes of Prabhupada. And you're getting the teachings at the same time. It's great. It's a great, I think I'm doing it for about the third or fourth time now. And I'm not tired of it. By the time I finish everything, I'm ready to, when I go back to the beginning again, my Kali Yuga memory is such that it's all fresh and new again. And I'm listening to these lectures from 1966 and 1967 and, enjoying it, getting some, and you get something new out of it too. I would try that. Try that program. It's very practical. It's very specific suggestion, but it works.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Hare Prabhuji. I have a question regarding chanting. The rule is you chant and hear. I start with that one, but slowly I start chanting in my mind. I go to automatically. I don't even realize I stop chanting loudly. From very beginning, from very childhood, we always trying to the mantra, inside the mind and very softly. So I think that built-in habit is not going away. I start, but even while I'm doing in my mind, I think I can focus more. I can read the whole mantra. I can see that I'm reading, I'm listening, I'm properly. So is that the right way, going slowly to mind and then coming back, listening through the ears?
Well, it does say in the Nectar of Devotion, it does say Japa's, if you read the section on Japa, it says it's I think, maybe I can find it real quick. It's chanted softly for one's own benefit. But elsewhere, Prabhupada said that one should chant loud enough so that one could hear oneself chanting and somebody else could hear you chanting. It's audible. In other words, it should be audible, but it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be as loud as I'm speaking now, for instance. It could be just like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Softly, just so you could hear, and somebody, if they kind of stood next to you, they could hear that you're producing the sound, But if you're when you're doing that, if you're thinking of the chanting and you're not thinking of, your mind's not all over, then that's good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would suggest you read that section in the Nectar Devotion about Japa.
Japa, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yep. Anybody else, anything?
Prabhu, I don't see any other question or comments from YouTube. And we have, I think, around 16 to 20 people watching now.
Thank you, Bhrigupati Prabhu.
Thank you.
Very, very enlivening. Appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing you in person down here, SanDiego, or when we go up there.
Might be in a few days.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right.
Prabhu, I have one more question. Can I ask?
Sure.
About reading, I've heard and that we have to read Bhagavad-Gita and Bhagavatam every day besides chanting. So that helps. So regularly we have to read, right, diligently we have to make sure we read something every day beside chanting in order to progress.
Yeah, well, Vaisheshika recommends this nice program. If devotees read 51 pages a day, they'll read the entire Srimad Bhagavatam in a year. That's ideal. To be honest with you, I don't have a like a systematic program. I mean, aside from attending the Bhagavatam class, but I tend to I research things that I'm interested in. I have the database on my computer, so whenever I'm interested in something, I'll go on the database and I'll just research what did Prabhupada have to say about that. So I do reading like that. I also do reading in preparation for classes that I give. And I also, when I listen to Prabhupada's lectures regularly, and a lot of times what I'll do is on that website I was telling you about, that prabhupadvani.org, the lectures all have the transcriptions. So a lot of times I'll listen, and if I hear something interesting or something, oh, that sounds interesting, and then I'll go read the transcription of that lecture. So I'm reading like that. But that's not, I'm not saying that's the best program. I think it's important to read Prabhupada's books just systematically like that. But, you know, I'm kind of, that's what I'm doing. And it's, I find it, I'm getting something from it. But if you, I think if you read kind of more disciplined way, that would probably be better. But if you're finding that difficult, maybe try one of those things, what I was just suggesting. Look up things that are interesting. Any subject that's of interest to you, look up on the database what Prabhupada had to say about that. You know how to do that? You do a word search, an advanced word search on the database. You say, type in like president. If you want to know what Prabhupada had to say about presidents or, you know, anything, any subject, you just type it in on the database and see if Prabhupada has something to say about it. A lot of times you'll find a lot of interesting things. And then also if you listen to try that suggestion I made about listening to Prabhupada's lectures chronologically. And then when you hear something of interest, then you you can read the transcription. Actually, something I've been doing for years, and this is a really good thing, very helpful to get it. Because, you know, the point of reading is to get absorbed in the philosophy. This is something that's helped me do that. I'll listen to lectures, okay? When I hear something that for some reason that just catches my mind, that's interesting, I just remember a couple of few words, like 2 or 3 words exactly. Then I look that up. I go to the database and I do a word search on those 2 or 3 words, and I'm able to pull up that lecture. And then when I got it, then I can read what Prabhupada said. And then I could really it helps me really get more absorbed in it, concentrate on it more, meditate on it. And then I print it out. You know, I print out that section that I found interesting. And then I put it in one of these plastic page protectors, you know, like a sleeve. And sometimes I'll also underline like a few words, a few sentences that were particularly interesting for me. And then I have that. And then I look at it. I can, you know, sometimes I might like look at it even sometimes when I'm chanting Japa, some particular point, or just I use them when I give classes, or when I just want to read something that I know I'm going to find interesting. I refer back to that. And I've saved them. I've saved them over the years. And about a month ago, I had a friend here, and he did a series of video interviews with me where I just went through these different excerpts that I'd saved and printed out and put in the page protector, and I was just reading them and kind of expanding upon them one after the other, and it was enlivening. You know, I found that the same things that interested me like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, when I read them again, they still were something, wow, I found that interesting. So that's something you could do as well.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Try it. When you hear something interesting, don't just let it go in one ear and out the other, so to speak. Just remember a few words and look it up. You know, if you don't have the database on your computer, you can find it's on the internet now. Database OI or database IO. I can't remember which. I don't use it that very often or at all because I have it on my computer. But the whole database is now on the. You can get it off Google, and but it's worth having the database with all the transcriptions of the letters and the lectures and like that. That's a good thing to have. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Okay, Balaram.
Yes.
We'll wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Bhrigupati Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Jai Jai.